This is Brian Carrier here to talk today about Cyber Triage 3.9. I am sporting the headset today because of all the days we could do a release webinar. They are installing hardwood flooring above my office, and there's hammers and compressors and various things going on. But this amazing headset blocks all that out. So shout out to the Jabra headsets here on you guys do not have to deal with the noise that I'm dealing with right now. So welcome. Let's go through this. This is what we do after each release to kind of give the highlights of what's in there. Sometimes they're purely slides, sometimes they're purely demos. Today we're actually going to use the live version because there's a bunch of important changes to go through today. So this is going to be a live version, no slides. This will be released out once we're done. You are all on mute, but there is a question section there on the right-hand side. So plug in any questions you have. I or someone else on the team we'll make sure that we address them, and I will speak them out so that everyone can get the answers. So let me just verify I updated my screen. I did. Just so you all know, as a reminder, you can get the full history list of what's in there on the online docs. So docs.cybertriage.com has a history section, section 16, and it has all the things in here. So we're going to cover a few of these things, not everything, but we'll cover a few of the important things today, but the full details are always there on the website. So when you install it, you're going to say, whoa, this is much different than I remember from 3.8. There's a lot of changes here on the incident management. We made a short little video about some of the changes here for the people who are like, whoo, where'd my stuff go? But we'll just do some kind of overview here as well. So main idea, there's three kind of main levels now of using Cyber Triage. This is the welcome screen. You can see that up here. There's now a breadcrumb at the top level. We'll see this kind of go back and forth. This is where you're going to use your navigation to change panels. This is kind of a newish concept. We used to kind of have different ways of moving around. Now it's all about the breadcrumb up here. So this is a welcome panel. This is where you can find all of your incidents that you've already created. You can make a new one with add new incident. We'll do that in a bit. This is where you can also edit and delete. You can get details here about what's in the incident, how many there are, how many not analyzed yet, some basic information on this. So this is all stuff that you had to kind of get once you press the open incident button. This is now in your face in front of you. New main area on the opening panel here is the system status. This is kind of a quick little snapshot of what is going on your system, how many hosts you've processed, how many incidents you have, recently how many you've processed, what your malware scanning levels are, how many you have remaining, when they're going to reset, and then your other kind of license information over here. So this is kind of a quick snapshot on what's going on. You may not look here every day, obviously. This is kind of where the core of your data is, but this can be kind of a quick reference here. These are all buttons. This view queue and recent hosts is if you have standard pro or team and you are processing things in the background, you can click on this and it will show you what those are, if they're done, if they're still queued up or whatever. So this morning I queued up the data we're going to look at today, so you can see those are all finished here. Breadcrumb, remember that? We're going back. So go back to the welcome screen, we press close, and here we are back there. This is also the malware scanning. This is usual stuff you've all seen before if you've done Cyber Triage. So other new things here. So to add an incident, just like before, you're going to press add new incident. It's going to prompt you for a name and description. This didn't change. It's different styling, different look, but same kind of information that you would have added before. You hit create here. And one other big change, we've changed the name of some of these ways of adding hosts. There was some confusion around live automatic versus live manual versus live file. Everything was live, and so we kind of changed things up a bit. So live automatic is now called network PSExec. Network meaning data is coming back from the target host into Cyber Triage over the network. So it's network, and then it's getting pushed out with PSExec. We also have network manual. This is data coming back over the network, but you are manually launching it on that end system or with the EDR or PowerShell script, etc. On that topic, for those who didn't realize, last week we also pushed out a blog post and some PowerShell scripts on deploying out Cyber Triage with your EDR or your SOAR or other kind of PowerShell based infrastructure. So if you haven't seen that, check it out on our blog. and we can also send you a link if you want to plug it in the questions here, or someone from our team can post it in the chat here if you want to deploy Cyber Triage out with your EDR or other kind of infrastructure. Other renaming here, live file is now called Cyber Triage file. So this is when you use our collection tool, it gives you that JSON.gz file. You bring that over. This is importing that Cyber Triage file. And then these are all the same: disk image, memory, cape, local, logical. Those are all the same names as before. One other change we will get to, just to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page with stuff, you'll see the name here kind of changed on a bunch of these things here. This used to just be host name. It's now called host display name. It's actually a more accurate name of where we use this throughout the UI. But basically, you can put whatever you want here. It's not going to be actually, well, that's a bunch of invalid characters, but you can put any normal characters you want in here to give it that name. It does not have to be the actual host name. So if you want to say domain controller, right, using full words, you can on here. It does not have to be the actual host name. This is causing some confusion because some people wanted to use a more descriptive name, and so we're actually making it more clear that that has always been possible. So let's back out of here. This is basically the same. This is now the incident dashboard. Sorry, we're going to dive into a bunch of things in here as well. This is kind of the main new area of Cyber Triage in 3.9 is all the incident level things that we did. But basically, I'm going to open up a pre-canned incident that I made this morning, and then we will kind of dive into that. So again, navigation's up here in the breadcrumb. I'm going to hit close. We're going to go back, and I'm going to open up this 3.9 release webinar incident that I made this morning. It's like the cooking show where you take out the fully created meal. So what we're seeing here is a summary. We're at the incident level. Up here, we are now seeing a summary of the incident. So there's 3 hosts in here. This is all part of a workshop that we ran 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Lee and Mike did this. It's a scenario of a data exfiltration case. There's a workshop, there's data sets. It was really cool. So we're not using this for our example here. So there's 3 systems on here. It's a file server, a domain controller, and one of the endpoints. So the really cool thing about a bunch of the features here in 3.9 is giving you this kind of incident level view on where to start. Now, full disclosure, these numbers are higher than we would like. Every time we go through some of these things, we find some things that we want to fix and address. There's a bunch of things we've already addressed as part of these things to put these numbers down a little bit and change them. But and we'll see here in a second, a good chunk of these numbers are very similar. So actually 126 of them are all services being shut down to kind of prevent detection. So we're trying to figure out some ways here on kind of grouping those 126 service shutdowns to be kind of one group, to not have it be 126 things to really look at. They're all kind of the same theme of shutting down a bunch of services. But that's a future release, not in 3.9 as we have today. So in here, there's a bunch of ways that you can now think about what to do with this. So one way you could prioritize which host to look at is just based off of like, hey, I care about the domain controller. I don't care anything else. That's fine. You can go to the DC host and do that. You could also say, hey, I want to look at the one with the most bad artifacts in there or suspicious ones. So to do that, you can go over here, look at these columns, sort by bad, sort by suspicious, and prioritize that. This you could actually always do in all of the past versions as well. Can you hear that hammering, by the way? It's above my head. Also, you can't hear it. I do. So that's one way of doing this. You can say, hey, Raging Bull, 170 bad things. I care about that. I'm going to press open host and go from there. Other way you can go about this is saying, what's the overview here? What are the kind of the things that we're seeing in this incident? This is a brand new incident. I don't know where to start. I don't know what's here. You can go here and say, hey, there's 126 service changes. There's 52 processes that have an unexpected, owner or user. There's 19 pieces of malware. There's a bunch of failed logins. There's LSAS password dumping is being done here. Unexpected users. So we can kind of see a bunch of things here on kind of the flavors of things that are in here. We're not sure what host it is yet, but we can just kind of see what's in here. So this bad items area is merging items from across the hosts to show you what unique kind of things are here. So we know we have some login activity, we have some malware, and we have some LSAS passwords being dumped just for kind of big picture orientation of what's going on here. So if you want to dive in deeper, you can say view items. This brings you to a new view called notable items. Again, navigation here. Once we want to bail out, we're going to press close to bring us back to the incident. This is a new view. This shows us all of the bad items here across all of the hosts in our incident. So by default, we're showing all the bad ones. If you want to, you can bring in suspicious, but we're going to start right now with just the bad. By default, it's sorted by time. So this is basically an incident level timeline at this point of all of the bad things that we know about sorted by time. And you can now kind of get a quick orientation here around, all right, it looks like the most recent things here were on December 27th, December 5th, and things that were on here. These were kind of the most recent ones. You can scroll down here for kind of a quick time range here of starting off here at March 1st or July 17th. So we can kind of start to see some of these things on here. Some artifacts we don't have timestamps on, so they just kind of show up at the bottom here, but they most likely actually occurred somewhere in the middle here. We just don't have an exact kind of date for that. But these are all kind of things that we can see in here. So we can start with a time range, and this could help us decide, hey, you know what? I want to start off with the host that had the most recent activity on here and actually dive into there first. So we can see here that on Raging Bull, we had some services shut down. That can be a sign of, hey, let's go there. Let's start our investigation there. So if you decide that, you can click on this and you can click on Open Host, and this is a way of doing that. If you also were on that first panel and you said, hey, I want to see what those failed logins were, you can do as well. There's two ways to do that. You can sort by description here, and this allows you to kind of group. Sorry, my GoToWebinar thing is in the way. You can sort by description if you want to, and then kind of scroll through. Here's all the services, ones that were merged together. Here's some of the malware ones. Here's some of the failed logins. So we can see this came off the domain controller and what you just had some failed logins here, etc. You can also filter. So if you want to, you can say I just want to see login sessions. The next release does have a select all, deselect all kind of option here, but I'm going to painstakingly click all of these things here, and you will watch me, and I will hit apply. And we can just kind of see those as well. So these allow you to kind of hone in on what those are. In 310, we're going to allow you to go from the previous panel where we saw there's 2 of these, 5 of these, 10 of those, click a button and just see those 2, 5, 10 here. We just didn't get that into 3.9 for that. But anyway, the main idea of this new panel is basically to give you kind of that big picture orientation, not focusing on a specific host, seeing the overview, and then deciding what you want to do. And if you say, hey, this looks interesting, I want to go to this computer, you can then just press open host, and this jumps you into that host, and you can then dive deeper and figure out what was going on that host. We aren't quite there yet, so we're going to bail out back to the other panel. But again, this is one of the changes here. Not much actually changed in the host view in this release, except for the breadcrumb, right? So before there used to be an exit close button up here. That's now gone, and it is now this close button. Other kind of change I mentioned before, just kind of UI-wise, there used to be some kind of buttons down here on the bottom and some on the top. They're now all on the top, right? So it's now like the collection tool was from the bottom. It is now on top. Other random change, I'm jumping orders here, but we did rename the collection tool to the collector. This is kind of a minor change, but for those who used to type it in from Cyber Triage, kind of CLI, it is now Cyber Triage collector. And if you scripted that, it also changed as well. So that is a change, same functionality, just want to be more clear in terms of what the capabilities of that tool are. So anyway, nothing else I don't think changed up here. These are all the same kind of buttons that we had before. That's the only one that changed. Other new feature here on this incident level view, right? So we talked about this of a way of grouping things, diving in, seeing across hosts, finding out where to start and look into. Other new thing is this incident search button. So we've always had, or not always had, but for quite a while, many years, have had a host level search. So you can be in a host, you can plug in some text or an IOC thing, an IP address, a hash value, whatever, and it will search that one host, the metadata for that one host. You can now do that across all of your hosts. So if you have some kind of indicator that you want to look at, you can now do that and go through all these things. So as an example, if we were kind of running through the full kind of data exfiltration scenario here. As part of that, we would have come up with an IP address. And let's plug that IP address in. So this is a 37.9.80.10. Came up as part of our looking at one of the hosts in terms of where some of the malware and things were downloaded from. And if we want to say, hey, who else had a reference to that IP address and where else was that, you can plug that into here. You can optionally put in some kind of date ranges. So if you want to say, hey, this may be a false positive prone search, I really care about the last week or 2 weeks, you could plug in an earliest date to kind of squash down the false positives. One caveat for that is that we do limit the results to, I think, 5,000 artifacts. So if you do plug in a term here that's going to reproduce a lot of things, the way you squash that down into a manageable size usually is with the date ranges to kind of bring that back in and focus on the recent things on there. As I mentioned before, when we saw in that kind of notable items timeline view, some things don't have timestamps, and therefore this little checkbox here basically says, you know what, if they don't have a timestamp and I put some date filters in, then bring them in no matter what, because I want to see them in case they don't have a date time. Anyway, we're just going to plug in this IP address here. We're going to press search, and it is going to put the results into this search results tab. And this is now showing us all of the references that we have to that IP address string. So we can see here on the Raging Bull host that is in some MS Edge and curl arguments. A bunch of curl things were used for that to download some zip files, to download some other zip files. Looks like some SVC host had that in as the argument. Looks like the SVC host is putting that in as a URL as well. So we can find here across the host, across Raging Bull, across domain controller, all the references, active connections, etc., to that IP address. Again, it worked for hash values. It works for phrases. It's going to search file names, any metadata associated, or any text with the artifacts. It is not a full text search. That is the big disclaimer. It is not doing every little bit and byte of an executable or an allocated space, but it will get you the metadata for those artifacts. So that is the incident level text IOC search. Same concepts we had before, just allows you to span all of your hosts. This can be useful for either in the middle of your investigation when you find something on one host and you want to search other hosts, or if some kind of threat intelligence comes in the middle of your investigation from someone you're working with, collaborating with, like, hey, I'm seeing this. Do you see that? You can just come up here, you can plug it in and do the search and see what you get. So second new search feature is the advanced search. This is a little bit different. This is going to show you for a single type of artifact across all hosts. So you can pick logon sessions, user accounts, web artifacts, data access, startup programs, trigger tasks, processes, all data types that we support. You basically pick one of them, and then you say, what date range you care about. You can restrict the hosts. This is basically saying, hey, I want to see the big picture of things and not be constrained to just one host right now as I'm looking at this. So again, we kind of are doing this of we know a bunch of data from our data exfiltration scenario. From the data sets on there, we know that that LSAS was run, passwords were dumped at 8 o'clock on November 5th, right? If we go back to the data, we can poke around if we have some time or interest. But let's just assume that at this point, we know that LSAS was dumped at 8 o'clock on November 5th, and we say, oh, that's not good, right? That means they have passwords starting at 8 o'clock that morning. We should see what else was going on that morning after 8 o'clock. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look for all logon sessions across all the hosts that we brought in. We're gonna specify a date here. So we're gonna put in November 5th. And then we're just going to not include any other kind of subfilter with text IOCs, and we're gonna hit search. So this is now bringing in data from all the hosts, DC, Raging Bull, file server, etc., and bring all these things in. So let's sort by time. It already was. So these are all starting in here by any time, I guess, for the search. But we can see here, so 8 o'clock was our starting point. So we're going to scroll down here to 11:05 at 8 o'clock and kind of see what we start to see after that point. So we can see here that there were some network logins On Viper, you see the dollar sign there. That means it's a host. It's a machine name. So this is the machine authentication to the domain controller. 310 is going to make it a bit more clear that this is actually a machine versus a user doing authentication. It has failed, but this is it's a computer, not an actual user account. So that's probably just a configuration concept here. But we do see here a network login for the Maurice user that was successful at 9 o'clock. We may want to look into that one. We can see some other machine accounts authenticating here. We see the Douglas account authenticating successfully here at 9:40. We may want to check in on that one. In the next release, there's going to be tagging infrastructure. So right now, we may not actually know this account is suspicious or not, but we do want to follow up with that. So we could mark it suspicious now if we want to. In 310, you'll be able to mark it as, you'll be able to tag it to kind of follow up with that if you wanted to afterwards to see if this account was actually on that system, and therefore when passwords were dumped, the password could have been figured out. So this basically allows us to scroll through though and start to view, what logins were there after LSAS was dumped that we may want to look into. So we have Douglas, we have Maurice, we see some failed logins, or we start to see some failed logins as we kind of scroll down here. There's some suspicious ones. We see here the local and usernames were different. So locally, they were Douglas. Remotely, they were Richmond. So this may be that this is part of their job, that they have different accounts. Or it could be that they, got the Richmond credentials and are now jumping around with different accounts, for that. So this could be suspicious. That's something you want to look into. So this is basic idea. 310 is going to build on this, iterate on this to kind of allow you to kind of do even more filtering with this. But basic idea here is that the theory is you're starting off with some kind of idea, some kind of clue, and you want to say, hey, what else can I know? Who else have processes like this? Or what are the processes we're running at this time? You can go down to processes and pick a time range, pick some hosts, and be able to view all that in one place versus going from host to host to kind of see what's going on in that time range. If you have any questions, please plug them in as we go through here. If you think these are awesome, please let us know. If you would like some kind of clarification on some of these, or it'd be even better if kind of things are always good to hear, because we can push those into the 310 release that we are mapping out right now. Other incident level things, there are incident level reports. We've always had these. These haven't really changed. The way you make them is different. But you can do bad suspicious items in CSV, HTML, time sketch. There is a minor time sketch bug fix in the current release. The headers are now fixed. Apparently they changed as part of that, so those now work. In the last release, we added this autopsy case export. That, of course, is there. If you haven't seen that, that allows you to export your data out of here and import them back into autopsy, so you can look around, with that. That's basically it. Those are kind of the main incident level things that are on here. Everything else is really kind of the same, right? As we go into a given host, a lot of this stuff is very similar. There's some new data here we added in, but there's a bunch of heuristics and artifact things that we added in, and scoring things. But kind of main changes here and overall flow was really that incident level things on there. And this was kind of the starting point, right? This was kind of the basic way of getting in the incident level timeline and search capabilities, which have been long-term requests. And 310 is going to have things around logons and lateral movement, and a bunch of other things that we are very excited by. So that is the basic idea on that. And that's really it. Those are the main things I had to cover. Actually, you know what? Let me keep myself honest here and pull up the backlog here of what we fixed. And I think that's the main idea. I don't think I missed anything. So plug in any other questions you have. These other ones are more minor that you can find unless you have questions for. All right. So with that, let me go to the Q&A here on what we added. So we have one question here about does the data source matter, right? So you can bring in different kinds of data sources into the incident, whether it's a kind of a cape or a local disk or a disk image, whatever. The experience from here should all be the same, right? So the experience from here is all the same. You will see that difference on how it was imported down here, whether it's a file or memory image or cape or whatever. But essentially, if we can bring out artifacts, we can score them. They're going to be shown in here. They'll be shown in the timeline. They'll be at the host level view, the incident reporting level view, etc. They are all in there as well. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thanks for all attending. This is a very fast one today. Sometimes these go to a good 45 minutes, but this was hopefully not too fast for the things that we covered and added in. As always, we love to get your feedback. These were, largely built. The three 9 things were with kind of working with some of users and their requests and working back and forth with them on these things. So if you have other feedback, comments, and suggestions, please let us know, and we will work them in. For those who attended the analysis course that we did a couple of weeks ago or last week, that is being recorded as we speak, and that should be out by the end of the year. So we'll have our basics course out for doing collections and analysis as well, for those of you who are newer customers looking for more training as well. So. Oh, we had one last question that just kind of popped in. Let me answer that before that kind of pops in. So there's a question here about what about memory analysis that relies on volatility framework. Yes, it does. I'm gonna guess the question here. So Cyber Triage does import memory images. We use volatility version 2 for that. If the profile is supported, there will be artifacts that come out of that. They will get added in, they will get scored, and they will get presented here and in the main UI. We do have less scoring on some of the volatility data. We rely on their kind of mouse scan and some of the other kind of heuristics that we have also work on the memory images. So those will show up as bad or suspicious artifacts on here. As many know, one of the challenges that we and several others have, with memory is that there aren't volatility 2 profiles for all of the modern systems, and we are very supportive and fortunate to have people who are building these profiles into the open source projects. We are looking into building profiles ourselves to support that, or other ways of finding other tools, for more modern systems. But as of right now in 3.10, we are still on volatility 2 with the public profiles on them. I hope to answer your question. Anything else? All right. Well, with that, I will wrap this up, and feel free to reach out to support or customer success with any other questions that you have as you use the software. So thanks, and have a good day.